These are learning objectives for this chapter. Formatting worksheets, Microsoft Word, inserting and deleting rows and columns, inserting and deleting cells, adjusting columns and row sizes, hiding worksheet components, inserting and deleting worksheets, copying and moving worksheets, customizing sheet tabs, adding a worksheet background. Let me click next for more modules.
Excel offers a number of ways to format and modify the structure of a worksheet. In this chapter, you will work with the tools to insert and delete worksheets, rows, columns, and cells. You will learn how to adjust column and row sizes and how to hide components of the worksheet. You'll see how to copy and move worksheets and how to customize sheet tabs and the worksheet background. After you create a worksheet, you may need to add columns and rows to include more information or remove columns and rows that are no longer necessary. The Cells group on the Home tab offers tools to help you insert and delete rows, columns, cells, and entire worksheets. In most cases, you can also use shortcut menus to perform these tasks. Let's start by deleting the empty column F from this worksheet. It is important to remember that there is a difference between clearing the contents from a column, row, or cell and deleting it entirely. When you delete something, it is completely removed from the worksheet and the surrounding cells are shifted to take its place. In this example, when you delete column F, the columns to the right will shift over to fill the gap. To delete a column, you first need to select the column or click anywhere in the column. The Delete button in the Cells group serves two purposes. Clicking the top of the button immediately deletes the currently selected cell, column, or row. Clicking the Delete arrow on the bottom of the button displays a menu of options. Since the entire column is not selected, let's use the Delete menu. Good. The two columns to the right have been shifted over. What was formerly column G is now column F. To insert a column or row, you can use the Insert button the same way you use the Delete button. When you insert a column, Excel inserts it to the left of the column containing the cell selector. When you insert a row, it is inserted above the row containing the cell selector. Let's add a row at the top of the worksheet. This time, select the entire row and then click the Insert button. The Insert Options button is displayed whenever you insert columns, rows, or cells. Later in the chapter, you will work with this button. You can insert and delete more than one row or column at a time. For example, to insert two columns, you would select two columns and use the Insert menu. Excel would then insert 2 columns to the left of the selection. Let's delete 2 rows in the Expenses section. This time you'll use the shortcut menu instead of the Delete menu. First, you need to select the entire rows that will be deleted. The rows have been removed, and the remaining rows have shifted up to fill the gap. Notice that the formula results in cells C15, D15, and E15 are now different. Since some of the expense values were removed, Excel automatically recalculated the formulas to display the correct total. On second thought, these rows are required for the Expenses section. Use the Undo shortcut keys to restore the worksheet. Just as you can insert and delete entire rows and columns, you can insert and delete specific cells. When you insert cells, the surrounding cells are shifted over to make room. Deleting cells causes the surrounding cells to shift to fill the gap. For your convenience, text will be entered in row 1 to illustrate inserting and deleting cells. For decoration, an alphabetical list of some of Organically Sown's products is displayed in row 1. Cell D1 was accidentally left blank. This cell needs to be deleted and the other cells shifted over to fill the gap. Note that deleting column D is not an option because all of the data in column D below row 1 would also be removed. This time, let's use the Delete dialog box to delete the cell. The Delete dialog box lets you choose how the remaining cells will be shifted. You can also choose to delete the entire row or column in which the cell selector is located. The default option is to shift up all of the cells below cell E1 to fill the gap. In this case, you want the cells to the right of cell E1 to be shifted to the left to fill the gap. Good. Now notice that an entry for a product beginning with the letter F was omitted. Let's insert a blank cell to the left of cell F1. The procedure is similar to deleting a cell. For this example, you can use the Insert menu. Now you need to specify how to shift the surrounding cells to make room for the new cell. The Insert Options button is now displayed. Clicking this button displays a menu of options related to the insertion you just made. Let's take a look. Here you can specify how to format the new blank cell. By default, Excel uses the formatting from the cell to the left of the new cell. In this case, that will work fine. Now remove the Insert Options menu and then type the new entry. When you create a worksheet from a blank workbook, all of the column and row sizes are set to a default size. Sometimes these sizes will change automatically as you format cells, but generally the sizes stay the same until you change them. Excel offers several ways to adjust the sizes of rows and columns. Use the Format menu in the Cells group. Use the Shortcut menu associated with a row or column. Drag a column border or row border using the mouse. Let's increase the width of column B using the Format menu. Before opening the Format menu, you need to select any cell in the column to be adjusted. The Format menu offers a variety of options to control the display of cells, rows, columns, and sheets. For example, the Auto Fit option automatically adjusts the column width to display the longest cell entry. The Column Width option lets you specify an exact width. Let's specify an exact width for this column. The Column Width dialog box displays the default width of 8.43. This number represents the approximate number of characters that will fit in the column if the characters use the default font. Let's increase the width slightly to 10 characters. Good! The column is a bit wider. The rest of the worksheet has shifted over to the right. The Auto Fit tool you saw in the Format menu is helpful when you just want to make sure that the column is wide enough to display the longest cell. Let's use this tool to increase the widths of columns M and N so that the entire words are visible. Good! Now let's look at another way to use the Auto Fit feature. For your convenience, the value in cell E5 will be increased so that the average number in cell F5 is too large for the cell. When a cell is too narrow to display an entire number entry, Excel fills the cell with the pound symbol. Note that this happens only with numbers. If a text entry is too long for a cell, the text is just truncated. Fortunately, the formula bar still displays the original entry. You can also view the result of the formula by moving the mouse pointer over the cell. Let's try this now. You can select the Auto Fit Column Width command to adjust this column, but Excel offers a quicker way. Double-clicking the right border of the column heading activates the Auto Fit command. Let's use that method. Good. The cell contents are now fully displayed. You can also use this method to auto-fit a row height. You just double-click the top border of a row heading. Now let's increase the height of row 8 using its shortcut menu. That will insert more space between the income section and the expenses section. The row height dialog box is similar to the column width dialog box. The default height is 15.75, which represents the approximate point size of the row. 1 point is approximately 1/72 inch. Let's increase the height to 25 points. You can also increase and decrease the size of a column or row by dragging its border with the mouse. To change a column width, you drag the right border. To change a row height, you drag the lower border. Let's drag the border of row 1 to increase its size. As you drag the border, notice how the screen tip displays the changing height. Good. To complete the new look of row 1, let's align the contents vertically in the cell. If your worksheet contains incomplete or tentative information, you may not want this data to be visible to other readers. You can hide columns and rows from view and even hide an entire worksheet. Hiding columns and rows is also helpful in large worksheets when you want to view only the most important information. The data pertaining to the savings account is tentative right now, so let's hide it from view. To hide rows or columns, you can use the Format menu or the Shortcut menu. Let's hide rows 18 through 21 using the Format menu. Excel identifies the hidden rows with a black line between the adjacent visible rows. Notice that row headings 18 and 21 are not displayed. To unhide the rows, you select the row directly above and directly below the hidden rows and use the Unhide command. Let's use the shortcut menu again to unhide the rows. Good. The procedures for hiding columns are similar to those for hiding rows. You select the column headings instead of row headings to hide and unhide the columns. Now, deselect the rows by clicking cell A1. Excel also enables you to hide entire worksheets. This can be helpful in large workbooks when you want to display just a few worksheets at a time. Let's practice hiding and unhiding this worksheet. The Hide and Unhide option leads to a submenu of items that can be hidden. Now you can select the item to hide. Now the empty Sheet 2 is displayed and Sheet 1 is hidden. To unhide any hidden worksheet, you can use the Unhide command on the submenu you just worked with. You can also use the shortcut menu on any sheet tab. Next, you need to select which worksheet to unhide. If other worksheets were hidden, their sheet tab names would also appear here. Right now, only Sheet 1 is hidden. Good. Keep in mind that Excel will not allow you to hide all sheets in the workbook. At least one worksheet must be visible. Next, you're going to work with the sheets in another workbook. For your convenience, the Loans workbook will be opened. As you build your workbooks, you may need to insert additional worksheets and delete unnecessary ones. By default, a new workbook contains 3 worksheets, labeled Sheet 1, Sheet 2, and Sheet 3. The 3 sheets in this workbook have been filled with data, and the sheet tabs have been renamed. Another worksheet needs to be added to store potential investment account information. Excel offers several ways to insert a blank worksheet into a workbook. Use the Insert menu in the Cells group. Use the shortcut menu associated with any sheet tab. Click the New Sheet button to the right of the sheet tabs. Let's use the Insert Sheet button to add a worksheet. A blank worksheet labeled Sheet 1 has been inserted to the right of the last worksheet. You can now enter data and format the worksheet. Instead of working with this sheet, let's delete a worksheet. The lender's sheet is outdated and is no longer necessary for this workbook. You can use the Delete menu in the Cells group or the Shortcut menu to remove a worksheet. Let's use the Shortcut menu. Excel is reminding you that all data will be removed when the sheet is deleted. Note that you cannot undo this action. Now let's return to the Loans worksheet. Excel enables you to copy and move worksheets within a workbook as well as to other workbooks. The Move or Copy dialog box is accessible from the Format menu and the Shortcut menu associated with the active worksheet. Let's copy the Loans worksheet to the Budget workbook. Start by opening the Move or Copy dialog box. The To-Book List box is used to specify the workbook that will contain the copied or moved worksheet. By default, the current workbook is displayed. The Before Sheet list contains the names of each worksheet in the workbook indicated in the To-Book List box. Here you specify where you want to move or copy the current worksheet. To copy the worksheet instead of moving it, you need to select the Create a Copy checkbox. Let's start by selecting that option. In this example, you want to copy the worksheet to the Budget workbook. To copy or move to another workbook, that workbook must already be open in Excel. You also have the option of copying to a new workbook. The Budget workbook is already open, so select its name from the list. The Before Sheet list has changed to show the worksheets in the budget workbook. Let's copy the Loans worksheet to the end of the workbook. Excel is now displaying the budget workbook with the newly copied Loans worksheet. Instead of keeping the worksheet at the end of the workbook, let's move it directly after Sheet 1. You can use the Move and Copy dialog box to move it, or you can just drag the Sheet tab with the mouse. Let's use the mouse. As you drag the Sheet tab, the mouse pointer will change and a triangle will indicate the placement options. Good. Keep in mind that you can also use the mouse to copy a worksheet. Just hold down the Control key while dragging the Sheet tab. The Loans worksheet is easily identifiable because the Sheet tab is labeled. Excel enables you to modify the default Sheet tab label as well as customize tabs in other ways. Let's change the Sheet 1 label so that it is more descriptive. You can use the Rename Sheet command on the Format menu or the Shortcut menu to do this. However, a quicker way is to double-click the Sheet tab and type the label. Another way to make worksheets more identifiable is to color code the Sheet tabs. This is helpful in large workbooks containing many worksheets. Although there are just 2 worksheets with data in this workbook, let's add color to both tabs. Use the shortcut menu to add shading to the Income and Expenses sheet tab. When another worksheet is selected, the tab color is more prominent. Let's take a look. Now apply a different color to the Loans sheet tab. This time, use the Format menu. Great! Now switch to the Income and Expenses worksheet to get a better look at the Loans sheet tab. Because the tab background color is darker, Excel changed the font color to white. The 2 worksheets are now easy to recognize. If you want to add flair to your workbook, you can add a picture background to a worksheet. You can also apply background shading to cells in a worksheet. The text, numbers, and formatting are displayed on top of the background or shading. Let's add a picture to the background of the Income and Expenses sheet. This feature is accessible from the Page Layout tab. The Page Layout tab contains tools for getting the worksheet ready for printing or other display. You will work with many of these tools later in the course. Right now, let's use the Background button in the Page Setup group to add a picture background. Excel is displaying the Insert Pictures window. You can choose a local image to insert by browsing your local drive, or choose an image using Bing search. Let's search for an image. The tulips picture now appears behind the worksheet data. This picture distracts from the information, so let's remove it. Notice that the background button in the page Setup group has changed to the Delete Background button, since the worksheet now contains a background. Clicking this button quickly deletes the background. Excel also enables you to apply color shading behind one or more cells in the workbook. After selecting the cells to be shaded, you can select a color from the Home tab. Let's apply shading to just the first row in the worksheet. The Fill Color tool in the Font group lets you choose a background color for the selected cells. Good. Notice that the lines between each cell no longer appear after you applied the fill color. Now save the workbook. In this chapter, you modified the structure of a worksheet by inserting and deleting rows, columns, and cells. You adjusted column and row sizes and learned how to hide and unhide components of the worksheet. You worked with tools to copy, move, insert, and delete worksheets. You also experimented with ways to customize sheet tabs and the worksheet background.